PCC money may have gone to Bolsonaro's movie. It was revealed yesterday by Folha de São Paulo that a legal entity, a company, handled the arrangement for sending money for the movie through Daniel Vorcaro. And this finance company, this business, it has long been under investigation by Carbono Oculto as one of the main finance companies used by the PCC, by the criminal organization, one of the most dangerous in Brazil, which is the PCC. So much so that they say this finance company belongs to the PCC. Exactly that. And yesterday it was revealed by the magazine, by Folha de São Paulo, that this financial company belongs to the PCC. It took part in the transactions, and it was used by Daniel Vorcaro to inject money into Paulo Carlisto's fund. Lawyer of Eduardo Bolsonaro. There in the United States. Bombshell, bombshell, bombshell. The more you mess with it, the worse it gets. And we find out about even more situations. That's probably why Flavio is so quiet and doesn't explain anything, right? Then Flavio went to Pará, and with a speech full of talk about shooting, beatings, and bombs. A good criminal is a dead criminal, blah, 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 whatever, whatever. But from what it looks like, he's the real big criminal. It's a lot of nerve and a lot of cynicism in a situation like this. Let's see Tico. Let's see Tico here. Look here, see? Dark host Bolsonaro's movie is under investigation by the federal police for its connection to master and money laundering by the PCC. Where's Flavio? Bolsonaro, who doesn't explain anything. Bolsonaro, by the way, Veja published evidence. It published documents. Where's Flavio to? They brought documents. Where's Flavio to refute Veja's report? Where's Flavio? Where's Mario Frias to answer for the movie? Because there has to be a list there of the funders, the investors, how much the movie cost, who gave money to the movie, and so far nothing. They're silent and quiet. No one shows up to explain anything. And Veja went hard on them with evidence and everything. With that PCC financial company also involved there in the whole situation of transferring money for the Bolsonaro movie. What Flavio Bolsonaro was demanding more money from Daniel Vorcaro. Shall we take a look here, Tico? Some demonstrations and some situations. If this isn't Bolsa Master, I don't know what Bolsa Master is anymore in Brazil. For God's sake.
Look at this, PCC money in the financing of Bolsonaro's movie. Guys, it's a soap opera. They won't even let us watch the World Cup. Look here, Folha de São Paulo, a fund called Gold Style, where Vorcaro had 1.8 billion in that fund. Then there's a management company called REAG, which is involved in everything. And then there's BK Bank. And this BK Bank is the bank that operated directly for the PCC. All of this was uncovered by Operation Hidden Carbon. Well, that money that went to Eduardo Bolsonaro, that Ravengate fund from Texas, came from a company called Entre Investimentos. COAF, look, an investigation by the Federal Revenue Service found that from this Gold Style, which operated with BC Becca Bank and was managed by REAG, 20 million went through. Gold Style, 20 million to that Ravengate fund, which was managed by Eduardo Bolsonaro. Yesterday, I showed you that the amount paid wasn't 61 million, it was 78 million. This is very serious, it's scandalous. I ask you to share this video, the article from Folha de São Paulo, a solidly sourced article based on data from COAF. It's scandalous. I don't know where this story will end, but for sure, every day a new fact comes up. Tomorrow we'll have the next chapters of this dark story of corruption involving money laundering and crime, organized crime, and the financing of the far right in Brazil and internationally.
They were huge. Yeah, guys, they don't show up to be held accountable. Neither Flavio Bolsonaro nor Eduardo Bolsonaro, nor especially Mario Frias, former Minister of Culture under Bolsonaro, federal deputy, and one of the executive directors of the film. No one shows up to be held accountable. So what's happening? People are going straight to the source. Source, Andrea Gonçalves, COAF. All financial transactions made in Brazil are registered with the COAF. Fola went to the COAF and got access to the information that this PCC financial company transferred 20 million reais to the to the Raver Havergate Fund. We already know that those receipts revealed by Intercept Brazil showed a total amount of 78 million transferred to the movie. And now comes another blow. The PCC's financial branch transferred 20 million to the fund for the movie. In quotes, obviously. Who else transferred money? For the movie, for God's sake. More will come soon. I told you all, and I'll say it again. That's right. If it didn't go over 1 billion, it reached around 700 or 800 million reais, Andrea Gonçalves. Are you crazy? I'm not crazy. My dear, for senators to be involved, federal deputies, mayors, governors to be involved in this, that was just too much money. They fell for it and embraced it like this. Look, they dove right in, got all over themselves, and used the movie to launder money, to pay bribes, using money from this multi-billion-dollar fraud scheme at Banco Master, which harmed and stole public money from retirees, pensioners, their own pension funds, public servants, and the bank's clients. And they created Zettel. And you can wait. Soon, if it's not Veia, it'll be Intercept, it'll be ICL, it'll be Metropolis, it'll be another media outlet that will publish it. Look, but so many millions went to the movie about Bolsonaro. Like Veia, not like Veia, I'll show you Veia in a moment, like Folha de São Paulo just revealed. Rogério Correia, a federal deputy, even talked about this. Have you already put the Bolsa Master up? No, you're missing the opportunity. Bolsa Master, and it has a specific and determined CPF. And it's cornering us here in Brazil, especially Flavio Bolsonaro. And he was caught red-handed, demanding millions from Daniel Vorcaro. Everything is closing in, and it's going to reach the boss. If you think about it, he's even a partner of Daniel Vorcaro. If you think about it, so leave your comment because it's very important. And let's see the statement from Federal Deputy Rogério Correia, who also spoke about this very serious situation. PCC money may have gone to Bolsonaro's movie. According to Folha de São Paulo, it did. Look here.
This dark horse scandal. The movie about Jair Bolsonaro linked to the PCC, a criminal organization. By the way, Flavio Bolsonaro and Eduardo Bolsonaro say that they are terrorist organizations. The movie and the PCC use the same fund. The background is called Gold Style. This background has 1.8 billion, and do you know what it's used for? To hide the relationships of the people who use the fund. COAF and the federal police have already noticed this issue. And they saw the connection with the movie's intermediary using the same PCC fund. This, guys, is going to cause a lot of trouble. This actually is going to land people in jail. And of course, it's also going to cause a drop in the polls. And there's no point in censoring polling institutes. What needs to be done is the CPMI of horse that I proposed. But no one from the PL wants to sign. Chupetinha didn't sign. Flavio Bolsonaro didn't sign. Viana didn't sign. Cleitinho didn't sign either. And we're there wanting to investigate thoroughly. Because now it's gone too far. A film about Jair Bolsonaro linked to a criminal organization which they call terrorist.
But here's the thing, right? The right-wing congressman, the federal deputy, Tony DePaula, former Bolsonaro supporter, right? Because he faced reality and got out of this Bolsonaro movement. Tony DePaula gave an interview yesterday, and he said that he can't say yet if Flavio Bolsonaro was really backed by this Banco Master situation. But what he can say and affirm is that Flavio Bolsonaro has a very heavy scheme in Rio de Janeiro, and that he is backed and financed by the biggest criminal organization in Rio de Janeiro. And he has involvement with the militia and involvement with the Red Command. Federal Deputy Tony DePaula said that yesterday in an interview. And he's saying it straight to their faces. Then Flavio already threatened him, like he said, "Can you sue me? You can sue me because I'm telling the truth. You are a political ally of Claudio Castro, former governor of Rio de Janeiro, impeached, hunted, ineligible, soon to be an inmate. You are a political ally of Rodrigo Bacelar, former president of the Legislative Assembly. He has already been impeached, hunted, declared ineligible, and is already in prison. You are an ally of T.H. Joyce, former state deputy, who is also already in prison. You have appointed 3 secretaries so far in Claudio Castro's government. 2 of the secretaries you appointed are already in jail. The third one was subject to searches and seizures by the federal police last week and will soon be going to jail." So he said that Flavio Bolsonaro is part of this scheme, the biggest criminal organization in Rio de Janeiro, and that it's all going to come crashing down. Shall we watch him saying it here? Let's watch, because seeing and hearing the person speak is even better. Let's see. And where do you think things will come crashing down first? In this specific criminal organization from Rio de Janeiro, which is also connected to Daniel Vorcaro, or is it about the movie? I know one thing, guys, not one stone will be left on another.
No, today my biggest wish is just this. It's not letting Flavio Bolsonaro become president of the Republic. That's my wish. I don't hide that from anyone. It's not because I hate Flavio, it's because I love my country. I love my country. The scandals that will still come from this guy will leave everyone shocked. I know how he operates politically in Rio de Janeiro. When I called him a pickpocket in the chamber, he really is one. Yeah, he's a pickpocket. He's the sponsor of the biggest gang that has ever robbed the state of Rio de Janeiro. When you put together all the governors who have been arrested in Rio de Janeiro, it doesn't compare. It doesn't compare to Claudio Castro's gang, which only stayed in power because of the Bolsonaro family. The Bolsonaro family helped rob Rio de Janeiro. And why is that? Because the ones who robbed Rio de Janeiro were the ones the Bolsonaro family asked us to vote for and asked us to govern. We voted for Wilson Vinicius. We voted for Claudio Castro because the Bolsonaro family asked us to. And even with all of Claudio Castro's thefts, the Bolsonaro family didn't have the dignity to come back and tell the people of Rio de Janeiro and the state, we made a mistake and we will not side with these crooks and these gangsters. On the contrary, they kept their support. Because Flavio Bolsonaro is a partner of the gangster Claudio Castro. That's why he didn't have the moral authority to tell Claudio Castro to drop out of the race. Claudio only left after the federal police went to his apartment twice. He only left after he was discredited by the federal police, and not because Flavio Bolsonaro asked him to leave. But why Flavio Bolsonaro, who is falling apart in Rio de Janeiro? Why didn't Flavio Bolsonaro ask for that? Because he doesn't have the moral authority to ask. Because they're partners in Rio de Janeiro's corruption.
Burn. Burn. Representative Antonio de Paula said that Flavio Bolsonaro is a partner of Claudio Castro. And Claudio Castro today, he is being investigated in 2 police inquiries before the federal Supreme Court. Claudio Castro and all of these here, Rodrigo Bacella, anyway, the secretaries I already mentioned who were arrested. There's a crackdown going on in Rio de Janeiro. One of the police inquiries is with Andre Mendonça, which refers to the investigation of the Banco Master fraud. Yes, that's exactly it. Claudio Castro is under investigation in this plot that involves the movie, that involves the entire Banco Master fraud. Because at first he had taken $1 billion. Then we found out it was $3 billion. And today we already know that it's more than $5 billion from the Pension Institute of Public Servants of the state of Rio de Janeiro. Claudio Castro took those billions and invested them in Daniel Vorcaro's shady scheme. And Daniel Vorcaro, in the latest plea bargain proposal he just made, for the first time he revealed and said it was a bribe payment to Claudio Castro. Just like he said it was a bribe payment to Ciro Nogueira. Ciro Nogueira is also from Flavio's political group, former Bolsonaro chief of staff and a senator of the Republic. Both of them, in this plea bargain proposal, which was actually rejected by the federal police, were implicated by Daniel Vorcaro. So this is the first scheme that Claudio Castro is involved in, and Congressman Otonio de Paula just said that Flavio Bolsonaro is a partner in Claudio Castro's criminal organizations. But that's not the only one. There's another police investigation within the DPF of the favelas, whose rapporteur is Minister Alexandre de Moraes, which investigates the entire administration of Claudio Castro for involvement with militias, with the Red Command, and also forbidding fraud, money laundering, corruption, embezzlement, a series of crimes in which they set up a network of gas stations to launder money. Where? Ricardo Magro, who is already a fugitive and on the Interpol list, is there in the United States hiding, on the run, who is also involved with this other criminal organization whose leaders include Claudio Castro. I repeat, the federal deputy from Rio de Janeiro, former Bolsonaro supporter, Otonio de Paula, said that Flavio is a partner. And the house of cards will fall. One way or another, the house of cards will fall. Meanwhile, people are shouting, the only good criminal is a dead criminal. Gunshots, beatings, and bombs. They want the criminal to get out of jail. Who, Andrea Gonçalves? Oh, these people are so cynical and lazy. Paulo Figueiredo is Eduardo Bolsonaro's lackey. Flavio stays here collecting money, and Eduardo went to the United States to raise and receive the money, from what it looks like. And he's there with his main partner, Paulo Figueiredo. Paulo Figueiredo had the nerve to do a live stream and say that Daniel Vorcaro has to be released, that he has to get out of jail. Wow, I don't understand anything now. A good criminal is a dead criminal. Now, for them, it's different. A good criminal is a criminal set free. Does Daniel Vorcaro have to be released? Seriously, are we going to look at this? What is their interest in having Daniel Vorcaro released? They're afraid that Daniel Vorcaro will spill the beans. And there's something else I'm going to say here. Daniel Vorcaro should hope not to get out of jail. Because listen to what I'm about to tell you. Because if Daniel Vorcaro is released from prison, he will end up dead. Andrea, what do you mean, my dear? If Daniel Vorcaro talks, a third of Brasilia will fall. He hasn't talked yet, not yet. He just let out a little bit, just a little, which were 2 names, a senator of the Republic, a former minister in Bolsonaro's government, and the governor of Rio de Janeiro. That's who he actually revealed for real. If he talks, half of Brasilia could go down. And if he gets out of jail, he'll end up like Adriano da Nóbrega. It'll be a hit to silence him, Bibiano. So he has to keep quiet and say, please let me stay here because if I get out, I'm screwed. Is that why Paulo Figueiredo wants him out of jail? I don't get it. They used to say a good criminal is a dead one, but now criminals can't even stay in jail. Shall we take a look at this shamelessness? So I don't say something else, I'll just call it shamelessness. Look here, guys. Does this even make sense? Pay attention.
Let's forget that Vorcaro, as I said, has been in jail for 3 months without any criminal charges against him.
Hey, 3 months is not much. Daniel Vorcaro has to rot in jail. And you don't need a criminal case to be in jail, guys. There's the inquiry and investigation phase. Because of the financial capacity and connections within the power structures where there are senators, congressmen, mayors, governors involved. The guy has to stay in jail. Otherwise, what will he do? He'll intimidate witnesses. He'll buy off witnesses. He'll make things hell to avoid the application of criminal law. No. So he really has to be in jail. It doesn't matter if there's already a criminal case or not. The reach is everywhere, and if you let him go, you'll see. You won't escape, or else it will turn into a hit to silence witnesses. Then the guy who keeps shouting that the only good criminal is a dead criminal, that's a criminal out of jail. Is this a slap in the face to society? Does this fool any idiot? Does this fool any sucker?
I can't say that I agree with someone being held for 3 months without a criminal case. If there's no criminal case against you, you can't defend yourself. What are you supposed to defend against? We can't forget that the guy, like I said, has been in jail for 3 months.
And that's not much at all. His time in jail has just started. Of course. They want him out because they're afraid he'll spill the beans and turn in his buddies, right? You should get out yourself. These people are real scumbags, you know, for God's sake. And speaking of slacking off, crime. Veja magazine also dropped another bombshell yesterday. Do you remember what I told you? I told you guys The Intercept is leaking a lot of things, right? And releasing a lot of things that we really need to know. Even so, we can know how to choose our representatives. Now it's going to turn into a situation where the other media outlets will go after it and reveal things too, so they don't get left behind by The Intercept. And the more we know, the better it is for us to be able to vote and choose our representatives. Because otherwise, soon there will be people electing those lazy criminals. Yeah, so it's important. Then Folha de São Paulo dropped the bomb yesterday saying there's 20 million from the PCC in Bolsonaro's movie. And Veja published it too. Davi Alcolumbre, according to Veja, received 155 million reais. And from Daniel Vorcaro. And the scheme was even laid out in detail. The money was sent abroad so it wouldn't attract attention. The money first went to a tax haven abroad. There are documents it was sent abroad. Then when the money was abroad, from there the money was transferred to Davi Alcolumbre. Davi Alcolumbre said he never received money from Daniel Vorcaro. But Veja stated that the money went to Davi Alcolumbre. Davi Alcolumbre, Senator, President of the Senate. So leave your comment, like, comment, and share. Thank you.